Yo, what up, Street Dogs? Eric Kim. Early morning, want to share some rando thoughts with you. So the first thought is this: how to become more prolific. So I'm probably one of the most prolific people I know. Prolific meaning producing a lot, or making a lot, or giving birth to a lot of stuff. And to me, the notion of being prolific is interesting because, right, if you look at an avocado tree or a almond tree or almond bush, I'm not 100% sure what it is, how do we praise it? We generally praise it when it produces a lot and it makes a lot of stuff. So certainly, even us humans, we should rate ourselves higher when we could produce, when we could make, when we could give birth, we could give genesis to more things, ideas, creations, whatever it may be. So I think, at least for me as a photographer, I tend to get like the most kind of like depressed when I actually go through periods where I don't have the inspiration, the motivation, or even the strength to produce. And so it becomes some sort of like creative impotence. And lately I think I've been able to overcome that, and I just want to tell you how I did it. So first and foremost, I think the biggest tip is keep your file sizes small. So probably in terms of my photography, one of the best things I've done is I don't shoot RAW anymore. I just shoot everything JPEG. And the reason why that's great is that it helps simplify my workflow. I just shoot with a filter, and the less you have to worry about like the eventual post-processing something or even big files, the more streamlined your process becomes. Because with photography, if I have to shoot RAW, my file is going to take forever to import, process it, and so there's just too many kinks in the chain. So keeping things small. So another example too, like I've been experimenting a lot with video and vlogging, and it seems for now the sweet spot is like 1080p at like 60 FPS. I was trying 4K for a while, but then the problem even with 4K is that sometimes the video actually cuts out, which is super annoying, which means like I'm recording and then like 4 minutes in, it just kind of stops. So obviously that's going to disrupt your creative workflow, and it's going to disrupt your flow, and then later you have to stitch the footage together, and that just takes forever. And so it seems like as creators, the best thing is for us to not get interrupted, for us to essentially like not be obstructed. And I like to call this term fluid, being fluid, right? Like to flow, like water, right? Like you don't want the water to obstruct something, you want the water to keep, going whichever way it's gonna go. And so if you think of yourself like a stream of water, how can you keep the water continuing to go straight and flowing? Essentially, it's just get rid of things that kind of get in your way. Other practical thoughts in terms of how to become more prolific. Essentially, don't worry about perfection, and be less concerned about making good stuff or what people are going to think or care about, whatever. And like, I think this has been a really huge thing for me, even with blogging and vlogging and stuff like that. People are like, oh, talk this way, don't talk that way, don't say the word like too much, and da-da-da-da. And so we become pathologized to become super hyper conscious of how we talk, and we try to correct our speech. But to me, it's almost like telling a lion to clip his toenails, right? It's just kind of ridiculous. I think we all have certain idiosyncrasies. We all talk a certain way. We often do a lot of ums, likes, da-da-da. But for me, the reason I like to use these kind of filler words is that it kind of gives me a certain pause in my thinking, or a cadence, or a rhythm, or a break. And so, I bet you even in the future they're going to find that these kind of unnecessary words that we always use actually do benefit our thinking and our thought. So that's one thing. Another thing that's been very useful is to essentially use equipment which simplifies your workflow as simple as possible. For example, Currently I'm shooting this on a Lumix G9, a Leica Lumix 12mm 1.4 lens, which is roughly a 24mm equivalent, and I'm using this big video Rode mic with this, you know, in my face, and it has the little sock on it, which is like noise reduction. And actually in camera I'm shooting 1080p, 60 FPS, and high noise reduction. So now that I enjoy doing a lot of these street vlogs, you know, the biggest issue is like to have wind or noise or, you know, echoes or whatever it is. And you know, people say, oh, you know, like audio sucks, but instead of having to import the footage and always process the sound, it takes too long, right? With this setup, to me it's 80% good enough. And so actually after I shoot it, I just plug in the I took out the SD card, plug it into my laptop, drag the MP4 file to my, you know, to my downloads folder, open up youtube.com/upload, and I literally just drag the file there, and I just upload it directly, then I just link it to my blog, whatever. And so it's, for me, it's been the simplest workflow that I've been able to discover, and it's so nice because it keeps me flowing, it keeps me streaming. And it's so funny too, because like this notion of streaming, these are all notions of water, which is great. Like, yo, look at this water. Right? It's kind of like calm, it's kind of zen, but the thing that's great about it is that it keeps flowing. There's no sort of like interruption to it. And water is a force not to be reckoned with, because, you know, like even examples where we're able to see like when the levees try to prevent it, it'll break through. So the power of water is very, very amazing. And so maybe one of the analogies, just think of yourself like a stream of water. Some other thoughts is, yeah, so the kind of connected to that point is, get it about 80% good enough and just hit publish or just upload it. Maybe that'll be a thing, just upload it. And when in doubt, just upload it. And you know, it's like, I think this is where I've kind of like shot myself in the foot in the past, because I've never really been a perfectionist, nor have I really cared for perfection, but like, you know, through the influence of my friends or my contemporaries or my peers, whatever, so I became too much of a perfectionist. And I think it's because social media, the algorithm, whatever, started to program me. Because if you want to maximize your likes or followers or your reputation on the internet, whatever, basically the formula is, you gotta go out, make the most incredible single photo, a single image possible, like just a great photograph, and then you just upload it, and then you try to maximize all the likes. And then the problem is you can't upload too much, or else the algorithm's gonna penalize you for uploading too frequently. But you cannot upload too infrequently, so you have to upload at least, you know, let's say once a day, every single day at noon. If you don't do it, then you kind of get buried, and then the algorithm also punishes you. So it's really bad, because this newsfeed algorithm essentially ends up programming you rather than your actual creative flow or activity. So that's bad. Other things I think that's good to become more prolific is augment your like creative tentacles, I like to call it. So imagine you're an octopus, you got all these different tentacles, and one tentacle might be writing, another tentacle might be poetry, another tentacle might be photo, another tentacle might be video vlogging, making beats, making music, lifting weights. Yo, check out the sunset, sunrise. Oh, not bad. Don't you love clouds? Doesn't it look like cotton candy? Alright, back to the show at hand. Okay, so I love it. There's like a total of like one car on the street right now. Right? So that's one thing. Okay, another thought on becoming more prolific. I think my theory is this. I think all creative thought comes from your feet, comes from the legs upwards, the feet upwards. So the more you walk, the more you talk with strangers, the more you could move, essentially. Movement, the word motivation actually comes from movement. The more you can move, the more genesis or more birth you can get to creative thoughts and ideas, which will give you motivation to go out and create things. And also another thing too is like, allow yourself to kind of be like a child. I think for me, when I create stuff, it's in the spirit of play. That there's no sort of sense of finality, it's no like sense of like good or bad, or you know, no peer assessment, no teacher grading me or anything. It's just like, I like to talk about ideas that interest me, and I like to share with other people because there might be a chance that, you know, inspires or motivates or helps somebody else. And essentially, I'm my own ideal viewer, in the sense that I like to create things as if like, you know, I was creating for me. Meaning, like I remember what it's like to be on the other side, and what it feels like to be disempowered and stuff like that. And so yeah, like I think to myself, like, man, if I was in my own shoes, what advice would I give myself? Or what kind of videos would I make to help benefit myself if I was 18 years old again? So maybe that could also be another creative idea or goal, is that whenever you're creating stuff, consider and ask yourself, could this have benefited your 18-year-old self? I think this is a really, really good idea. Other ways to become more creatively prolific. I mean, simple one, actually just having an apartment or a house with fast Wi-Fi. I found like this been able to be very beneficial for me to upload files a lot quicker. If you have a slower internet connection, let's say you're making videos or vlogs, just stick to like 720p or something like that. Like you could even open up your videos in QuickTime, then file export 720, so your stuff could upload a lot faster. Or even when you're shooting JPEG, but even on my Lumix, I've been shooting, I just been shooting like medium JPEG, which is like 8 megapixels, whereas the sensor is like 20 megapixels. And the benefit is that I could just upload files a lot faster. So just know that ultimately, the more you produce, the happier you're gonna be, the more fun it is. I think you can inspire more, and everything you create, there's no sense of finality. You're just taking another step forward and just trying to become the most epic you possible.